We are live from the SEC Unfiltered platform, reacting to LSU's coach Brian Kelly's leading us off at the 2024 SEC Media Days. Guys, I am your host, Dave Shumate, longtime college football personnel guy. Worked in the SEC for 7 years in personnel recruiting departments across the Southeastern Conference. We do have boots on the ground, though, guys. We do have boots on the ground in our own. Chris Phillips, CP, is in Dallas. He's at the Omni Hotel, but I will be reacting to every head coach's initial press conference. But the initial gathering from LSU, from Brian Kelly's press conference, if you're an LSU fan, you got to be pretty fired up, right? I was a little more optimistic after that. I was texting a guy that works in the industry. I actually think LSU may be a better team this year from top to bottom, but the record may not show that. They may be a game worse. They're not going to be 2 or 3 games worse. Maybe 2, but not 3. Not 3. I could see them being 8-4, 9-3 range. I think he knows. You hear Nick Saban talking the SEC Network. I think any coach knows it's like, hey, yeah, we put up big numbers last year offensively. We were really good on offense, really carried by 3 people. Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas Jr., and BT, Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors. But the defense was bad. It was bad. You can't deny that. So I think he's aware. They're going to play a different style this year, play more possession. They're going to lean on their best unit on the entire team by far, and it's probably the best offensive line in the country heading into the season in the LSU offensive line. You know the names, Will Campbell, Emory Jones, them across the board. But even then, you got to like the guards as well. You got DJ Chester at center, Garrett Dellinger, Miles Frazier, guys that have stepped. They have depth there. But just some other key points from Brian Kelly. Again, mentioned he's going to play much more balanced football. I think that's a good strategy. Replace both coordinators. He mentioned before his press conference, we won 10 games, and I fired my defensive coordinator. So, he's trying to go fix it. They have Joe Sloan, Cortez Hankton, the co-OCs, bringing Blake Baker back, Bo Davis, who's been around the league at Alabama, at LSU before, is going to bring that physicality, nastiness back. My only concern, and I voice it all the time if you listen to me, and I'm as objective as possible, the personnel. The personnel on the defensive line is, especially on the interior, is not going to beat it. Jacoby and Guillory, redshirt senior's been in the program for a while, hasn't really done much. Jalen Lee, Gio Paez, the kid they brought over from Wisconsin, kind of just a guy. Sean Washington, Georgia transfer, I think he was at East Mississippi. Can he step up? I know they're banking on true freshman Dominic McKinley or Kimo McAnoy. I remember him as a recruit when I was in college football as an offensive lineman. He's making the transition over from the offensive line to the defensive line. Don't judge Bo Davis, Blake Baker, and Coach Peoples, like guys like this, off what they do this year. I think I've stated it. I think Brian Kelly saved his tenure at LSU. Believe me, there's an expiration day for us all in life and at our job. Again, Brian Kelly probably isn't going to coach another 7-8 years, but I think he extended his time to 3+ with the hire of Blake Baker, Coach Peoples, and Bo Davis. I think he did. I don't know if you're going to see the fruit of that labor this year. And I think scheme-wise, they're going to be more aggressive, probably force some more turnovers. How they utilize Harold Perkins will be key. They're not dumb. These are good football coaches, guys. If I know they're struggling personnel-wise on the interior of the defensive line, they know that. They know that. And they're going to play to the strengths of their team, probably a little bit more aggressive. Does that allow more explosive plays? Sure. But if you could get an extra possession for what I think is going to be a pretty good offense, not as good as last year, but I think a pretty good offense, I think you could be a better team across the board, especially if you're running the football. Like I mentioned, offensive line, but you have weapons. I don't know if you necessarily have a dude in the backfield. If there was a dude in that backfield, it's probably Caleb Jackson, the young sophomore. But they have Josh Williams, Caleb Jackson, John Emery. They have some guys they can utilize in the backfield. You lean on the offensive line, limit the possessions, because, again, your personnel is still not going to allow you in this year, in 2024, to be that much improved, in my opinion. But I trust Blake Baker scheme-wise. They will be improved. They can only be improved. Let's call a spade here, guys. Let's call a spade here. They can only be here. Let's go. Be sure to like, subscribe, guys. Hit the notification bell. We'll be here all day. But, again, some other things. Talk about Brian Kelly. Feels good about the wide receiver depth. I would agree with that. Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton. They have multiple guys he thought they could play the inside wide receiver spot, the outside wide receiver spot. CJ Daniels coming over from Liberty. He mispronounced Xavier Thomas's name, but the Mississippi State receiver. I think he can help them on special teams. mentioned deepest team he had at LSU. I talked about that briefly. Initially, that took me back. I was like, no way. But I'm like, yeah. I mean, probably outside of the interior defensive line and just secondary as a whole, call it corner, safety, whatever you want to call it, it probably is his deepest team. I think they're having some solid guys. We mentioned receivers earlier. They have more dudes probably this year. Maybe not the dude that you had in Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas Jr. or any other guys you remember back from 2019. But I think they have winnable. They have enough guys, a core group of 4 or 5 guys at the receiver position who can win. Same at the running back spot. I think Garrett Nussmeier, we're talking about depth, he'll be fine. Linebacker, they got some depth. Again, maybe not a true dude. I mean, Greg Penn's solid. Depending where Hell Perkins lines up, probably on the inside, move him to the outside on third down. Wes Weeks, Whit Weeks. They have some guys. Again, I think LSU is probably deeper. Brian Kelly's probably not wrong. They probably are deeper as a team outside of the interior defensive line and in the secondary. But I don't see the high-end, top-end NFL draft standpoint or talent from that standpoint. A question I was a little disappointed no one asked. No one asked, and I tweeted you guys, why didn't anyone ask him, Coach, why have you struggled to get the defensive line coach hire right until now, until you had Bo Davis? Why did you struggle to get that coaching hire right? I mean, you had a dude, Jamar Cain, just a guy every year, man. That affects. You have to get that position right, man. And again, I think Bo Davis can get the most out of that. There's not a lot of high-end talent there, guys, and I think most LSU fans would agree with that. But if I'm an LSU fan, I'm fired up about, bro. I mean, I'm okay. It makes me feel a little bit better. All right, we're going to go be a little bit more balanced this year. It's probably going to help us overall as a team. We're not going to be as explosive on offense, but we know that. So let's lean on our strengths, and that is the offensive line. Like I mentioned, I think they're going to do that. Run the football, throw off play action. I think Garrett Nussmeier is one of the sleepers. I think a lot of people like Garrett Nussmeier. You go watch his games. You go watch him in the start against Wisconsin in the bowl game. He's going to be fine. It's going to be Jane Daniels. I don't know about that, but the guy's played a lot of football. He's been in a college football program. He's from a coaching family. Doug Nussmeier used to be the OC at Alabama. He's been with the Cowboys. He knows what it is. He loves LSU. He could have transferred numerous times, but he didn't. He's fine. He's the least of LSU's concerns. It's just overall, they're going to have to adjust how they play, probably how they would prefer to play. LSU may be one of those teams this year that you're like, yeah, this is going to look a little bit like Les Miles. Not to the extent. We're not going to be running to the toss pitch back. He ain't doing that, but to Jacob Hester or anything. But I think the explosive plays could be there, but I think they're going to save their defense. Because I think if they want to go compete for an SEC title in a playoff appearance, which is the expectations in Baton Rouge, and it should be, I think they're going to have to go play a little bit more more in the middle, more team football, more something like, guys, we're not going to go lead the SEC in passing this year. It's just not going to happen. It wouldn't benefit our team. So I'm willing to say that after Brian Kelly. I could see LSU being better from top to bottom as a team in 2024, but the record may be a game worse. Because again, I mean, this is a team that won 10 games last year. It wouldn't shock me. They won 9 games. Just wouldn't shock me. Again, it'll be interesting. They get down early. If they're playing catch-up, they have to come down from 14, 17 points. They get in a hole real quick. That'll be interesting. I think Garrett Nussmeier and them can keep them in the game, but just the personnel. I've said it all offseason, guys. I think Brian Kelly's aware of it, but the personnel across the board on defense is probably going to be the thing that holds them back. But I do think he hired 3 phenomenal defensive coaches that are going to get the most out of this team. They're going to get the most out of this team or this defense, this unit. But how much more? You know what I mean? And it's not going to be their fault. I think heading into 25-26, it's going to be a good unit. They'll be tougher, and I think they'll force more turnovers because they're going to have to and be more aggressive. But overall, I think balanced, deepest team is something you take away from Brian Kelly. You can kind of tell he likes he's a politician, guys. And again, he could probably be a little bit more hands-on within the program than he thinks. And I've talked about it. I think he underestimated this job a little bit. And how you had to you got to be more hands-on in this job. Like, I think he's letting a little bit of the Frank Wilson show go in, handle that. I think the mixture of Joe Sloan being there and Blake Baker coming in is going to modify that a little bit. It's going to be for the best. Again, I think the Blake Baker, Bo Davis hires save the Brian Kelly tenure at LSU. Again, he wasn't going to get fired this year, but instead of it being another 2 or 3 years, I think Brian Kelly's going to be able to name his date when he wants to leave. I think that's how big of a defensive hires these were. Again, that's not going to show up this year. I mean, it will, maybe in some scheme, being a little bit more aggressive, but don't totally – I mean, if they finish as a 70th defense or something, let's don't go blame Blake Baker and Bo Davis. That's not their fault. It's been the recruiting personnel and just lack of continuity at that defensive line room from a coaching standpoint. But Brian Kelly, I mean, nothing crazy. Feel comfortable, though, in my pick with him. 8-9 wins. I think even the realistic LSU fan, for them to go, I would be a little bit surprised if they were in Atlanta this year. I think the lack of recruiting on the defense side of the ball, especially on the defensive line in the last few years, is going to catch up to them this year. I think even the most objective person who wears the purple and gold glasses can admit that, guys. But again, reacting to Brian Kelly's opening press conference, he was the leadoff man for us. Heard him on the SEC Network. He said he'd love to be Jay Johnson's leadoff batter. He was the SEC's leadoff batter today, guys. I'll be back for the rest of the day reacting to Shane Beamer's press conference, Lane Kiffin's, and Clark Lee's, guys. Follow us on all social media platforms at SEC Unfiltered Platform. Follow me at Mach10 Sports. Follow our guy, Mr. Cole Thompson. He does a phenomenal job, too. Our guy, Chris Phillips, has boots on the ground, so he's there. I'm waiting for CP to ask a question, baby. I'm fired up. But overall, a little disappointed. Nobody in the media mentioned the defensive line question. I thought that was a fairly easy toss-up, easy question. You could have hit that one out of the park. But is what it is, guys. I will be back with you in a bit reacting to Shane Beamer's press conference. Appreciate you joining us, guys. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We are the SEC Unfiltered Platform, bringing you SEC content 24/7, 365, guys. Day one of SEC Media Days, guys. Football is really close to being here.